Armored Core lore. This statement changed perspective drastically in Armored Core 6. This is the title of a short recently made by Love Ark, another AC YouTuber. And it was seeing this short that made me want to make a video on it, as I'd like to share some of my own thoughts about the subjects talked about within it. Just to be clear though, this is not me having a go at Love Ark's short. In fact, it brings me great joy to see others have a go at tackling Armored Core lore and exploring it. Love Ark's other short on the topic of what if 621 never made it to Rubicon is worth a watch, as it explores it in a short but precise manner. But now, that is said, I'd like to dive into my own thoughts on the subjects talked about in the short, these being the ideas of the PCA having tried to use Coral further than they did, and while doing so, they find air, and PCA spies. We already know the PCA had figured out how to use the technology that used coral as power sources. The sea spider and the ice worm are testament to that, and it's very likely that the PCA, or better to say the power over them, did try to use coral more. We don't have the whole picture, as it's very possible the Planetary Closure Administration is but a small part of a bigger government or galactic body. And I think it'd be foolish to say that this government would simply turn a blind eye to such power, even after the fires of Rubicon. It's more than likely that this firestorm lit the desires of certain government members who sent in the PCA along with other agents. While the PCA was there to work alongside these other agents, it became that classic clash in government bodies. On the one hand, you had this huge public horror that needed to be seen to be dealt with to secure public trust, while on the other hand, such a large government would need to think about using this for their own advantage. After all, imagine a fleet of coral-powered war machines, or even a galactic coral-powered police force. It certainly would make this government look powerful in the eyes of the public, and it'd be a great deterrent against the corporations. In-game, we know the PCA was a feared force already, and it took two huge corporations working together to push them off one planet. So imagine a coral-powered PCA. Such a thing may have been the breaking point for the corporations, where the risk was not worth the reward. This is really to say I believe the PCA or the government they worked for did indeed try to do something with Coral before the arrival of Branch or 621. As for where Air fits into this, I'm going to say the PCA could not have seen her due to not being augmented. If Air was around when the PCA came, she could have taken over machines to fight back. However, I think at this time there was nothing for her to work with. We know about old Institute Tech and old Armored Cores, but I don't think Air would have stood a chance. Still, going back to the PCA using Coral, I think they did not get the chance to do so. The controlling of the sea spider and ice worm, the satellite cannons, the watch points, the AI left behind, this was all the first steps in their plan. As I said before, this was all done to please the public. This was the government's way of saying, we shall not allow such a thing to happen again under our watch. When really, it was this grand curtain that would hide Coral away until things cooled down. Rubicon's remaining residents silenced by PCA power on the ground, Coral put under observation in special buildings, and the institute that created it buried deep underground, along with an AI that would monitor all PCA activity and advise any PCA forces left behind. All this done so one day the government could return when interest moved away from Coral and things could be done without too many eyes on them. This is what I believe. So perhaps this is why Branch came, to pull back the curtain. Allmind also could have been the one to call Branch in, as it needed to break the PCA's hold on Rubicon and bring the focus back to the planet. The final point I want to talk about is Sulla being a PCA spy. Now, we know that PCA troops had a hatred for mercenaries, and PCA technology was something they felt outclassed anything anyone else had to offer. So while I can say I don't think Sulla would be working for the PCA with how close his ties are to Allmind, along with the ghosts that work alongside him during the Watchpoint mission, I think actually having a PCA insider on Rubicon would have been a neat addition to the story. A character like Middlefinger, but a PCA pilot who takes job from the corporations to feed back information before and after they invade Rubicon. Kate Markson would have been my choice for this role, a PCA pilot who works with Allmind as an agent for the PCA, an ear into Allmind and Rubicon itself. Only she falls victim to an Allmind plot, where the AI then uses her ID as its own cover to wreck the PCA by feeding them wrong information. But again, you can take this idea further with not only Kate, but also a spy within each corporation, even before the fires of Rubicon. Take Meterlink, for example, who on the surface is a very loyal Vesper, almost too loyal, and this is because she's trying to climb the Vesper ranks and earn favour with people with information, like Snail. However, she becomes a pest to Snail, who distrusts her absolute loyalty, and he starts to suspect she is a spy for the PCA or another corporation, which is how she ends up being the pawn in his plan with G3. It's here she could break her cover and try to flee Rubicon, but more than likely, she would die like she did in the game. For Balaam, I'm torn between G7 or G5, as I think both of these would make sense. For G7, a PCA pilot trying to use an AC would most likely be trouble, and ending up dead with no one talking about him, to me suggests Guile or Michigan knew something was up with this Red Gun member. As for Iguazu, I could have seen the PCA or a branch of theirs being the ones to arrest him and end up using him, giving him a deal to pay off his debts to be a spy for them and after have a life of freedom. It's again an idea that can grow legs and arms if allowed to, but this is where I'll stop, as I think I've covered my thoughts on the subject. So now it's your turn. What do you think about these ideas, and who would you have as PCA spies?